Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We'll be talking tonight about choosing a business model for financial success. My name is Floyd Holdman. I've been with Tahitian Noni since actually before we opened our doors, and it has been quite a ride. I cannot think of another company like this or even a better business model. So I look forward to talking to you tonight. We actually have people tuning in from around the world, from Europe, Russia, Asia, Thailand, just about everywhere. A lot of them stay up pretty late or get up pretty early to hear this. We will tell you later about how this is being recorded, and it will be able to be seen later. Okay? Now, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, let's see here. The question I have to ask you is, does your business office look like this? Well, mine does. In fact, my business office sometimes look like this. So are you more involved in something like this? You know, this is also part of my business office. This is where I was last week at Lake Powell in southern Utah for a week. Or does your drive to work look more like this? That's how most of the world does it. Whatever country they're in, some places are worse than others. So which do you prefer? Do you prefer to have this, or do you prefer to have this? You see, the choice is yours. So here's the question we want to ask and answer tonight. Where will you find a business model that pays you what you are worth instead of what a job is worth? You see, most people just get paid what a job is worth. And if that job's a dead end, that's the way it goes. Can you be advanced? Can you not be advanced? Do you have a chance for financial freedom? A lot of times that answer is no. So where will you find a business model that gives you the most freedom to choose your own future? See, this is important because you don't want to be climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. And that happens to a lot of people. They climb the ladder and they get up at the top and they go, whoa. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. The view isn't what I thought it was going to be. The success isn't what I thought it was going to be. So don't waste your time climbing the ladder and it's against the wrong wall. So where will you find a business model that thrives in an environment that's totally discrimination-free? It doesn't matter your color, your religion, your age, your sex, even the country you live in. As you know, it says a good business model can expand clear around the globe. So you need to have that kind of a business model to look at as we're talking about this. And where will you find a business model that continues to reward you while you're asleep or while you're on vacation? Wouldn't that be great to see the money still pile up even while you're on vacation? Last week when I was at Lake Powell on our houseboat, I made many thousands of dollars, in fact, every single day. And yet I had no iPhone, no phone, no internet service. I just was out enjoying my family. And yet I still got paid. Wouldn't that be a great business model? And where will you find a business model that lets you decide when and where you go on vacation instead of having to be put into a list waiting to see, well, the higher priority people get to take this week's or these months, so you can't do that. You can decide when you want to go on vacation. In the winter and the summer, I go skiing here in the winter during the weekdays instead of the weekends when it's so crowded. That is true lifestyle. And then, in fact, where will you find a business model that pays you and sends you on vacations to exotic spots around the world? The business model itself sends you on vacation to wherever it is, you know, that they're sending you that year, which can be exotic places every year or sometimes more often than that. You will find it in the network marketing industry. I promise you. It's a business you can start with little money and build it to a multi-million-dollar business. And it can happen. And it's happened to me and to my wife. So let's talk about this now tonight. What really is this industry? Is it something that should be put down or something that's not so great or people make fun of it? Let's answer some of those questions, okay? So let's do a comparison of 4 business models in use around the world. So let's talk about each one of these business models. So which business model do you think is going to give the average person a better chance of fulfilling their dreams? I'm going to talk tonight about 4 different business models, which just about takes in everything except charity work. So let's look at the first one, the standard business model. What is it? You have the CEO at the top. Below him, you have management. And below management, you have the general staff. That's the standard business model, whether it's Apple or Microsoft or Disney or wherever it is. Now let's look at the government. What have you got? The president or prime minister in different countries. You've got a cabinet, which can be many or a few. And then you have Congress. So you have that business model. And this also applies to state governments, any kind of a government. Now let's look at a school system. What have you got? A superintendent. You've got principals in the different schools. And then you have the teachers. Now let's look at the fourth business model, which is what I'm going to talk about tonight, is a network marketing business model. You have you have your first level rather, and then you have your second level. Now here's what's interesting. You are the CEO of your own business. Now you notice what all four of these have in common? Think for a minute. They're pyramids. When somebody says to me, is this a pyramid? I go, no, the pyramids are in Egypt and they're not for sale. Well, the point is, every business is a pyramid. It is. They're all pyramids. I mean, you look at Walmart. I ask somebody, well, you mean a pyramid like somebody's on top makes more money than the other people in the middle and then you're down on the bottom supporting everybody else? They go, yeah, that's it. I said, no, that's Walmart or Costco. See the standard business model in the top left there? That's what that is. It's a pyramid, folks. That's all what it is. So let's go ahead and break down and talk a little bit about the one that I'm going to talk about, which has made me many, 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 many dollars and a lot of freedom. And that's the network marketing. Okay, this business model, because it doesn't just go 1 and 2 levels. Let's talk about a third level that you can earn income from. Let's talk about a fourth level that you can earn income from. See, with the most standard business models, what happens is they spend money on advertising. I remember many, many years ago when Burger King wanted to introduce their new fries. They spent $50 million on advertising. Now, what we do in network marketing, and some people say, well, why isn't the company promoting things more? Why don't we see ads? Well, folks, you want them to run ads so they can take money out of your check. What happens in this is you're being paid to teach and train others so that they tell somebody, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and you can be paid multi-levels. That's why it can be called multi-level marketing or network marketing, because now as you help people tell others, then you're going to have a real winner of a business here, because the money is sent to you for word-of-mouth advertising instead of spending all the money on the marketing, the advertisement and so on. It goes person to person. And what happens even in Mirinda Bioactives with our products, you can actually get paid down 20 levels when you qualify for the infinity bonus. Our standard payout can go 8 levels, but you can actually receive bonuses 20 levels down. Think about that. I often wonder, when I showed earlier the school system, the principal, starts with the superintendent, then the principal, and then the teachers. How much different do you think teaching would be today? What do you think they would be teaching those students if they were told they would get just 1% of the lifetime earnings of that student? Think about that. You think they'd look at things a little bit differently or work a little bit harder if they got a percentage of that person's earnings the rest of their life? I think it'd make a big difference. And think about what we're doing in network marketing. You teach people, train them and help them and work with them. See, leadership is only service. That's all it is. I'm not successful unless you're successful. And you're not successful unless you help somebody else be successful. It's a joint success venture. And as they're successful, you're going to get a percentage of what they do. I mean, that is true residual income. So let's use another comparison. What does the noni fruit and the light bulb have in common? Okay, well, it's made well known throughout the world because of a network. We'll skip the noni for now and talk about that later, but let's look at the light bulb. Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb. He perfected the light bulb. In fact, some of his original light bulbs are still burning. He perfected the light bulb. But there's one problem. You create the light bulb, what do you need? You need some way to power that light bulb, you see. And so how do you do that? Thomas Edison built General Electric and made a network. He had a network of power stations that went to different homes that lit the light bulb. I think often of a story of a farmer and a salesman came by and they were seeing by candlelight. He says, you know, they're building a dam down the street, not, you know, a few miles from you, not here. And we have something here, and he had a little demo thing that you're going to be able to bring light into your home and not have to use candles anymore. He said, boy, that sounds good. So, and it was like about a 15-watt bulb. But boy, that was better than that candle, and he was really excited about it. Well, a couple of years later, the salesman came by and says, would you like to have more light? He said, well, yeah, how do I do that? And he unscrewed the 15-watt bulb and put in a 50-watt bulb. And it was like, whoa, this is so much better. How did you do that? Well, the power was always there. All we did was change the light bulb, you see? So the power of a network is there, but you decide how strong that power is going to be. You decide what advantage you're going to take of that network that comes to you. And that's what we do with networking. But now let's leave Thomas Edison now and look at J. Paul Getty. J. Paul Getty struck oil. But oil by itself doesn't do anything. It's got to be processed, and it's got to be distributed. So he set up the Getty gas stations, you know, all over the country. And what he had to do now was make a distribution, a network system that would take it from the raw state, the oil, to the different gas stations so the consumers could buy it. Okay? And that's what they did. Now let's look at another thing that people use today, and that's franchising. So you've got a main thing. You see here McDonald's, Harley-Davidson, Subway, 7-Eleven, Super 8 Motel. They created franchises. Instead of having the mom and pop stores and the smaller ones that people don't know what kind of quality will I get, well, or even what kind of a hamburger am I going to get, or what kind of sandwich am I going to get, what kind of a hotel am I going to stay at? Well, they created franchising so that there would be a consistency in what they offered. Did you know that franchising, when it first came out, because a lot of people got ripped off, a lot of people were unhappy, they invested their money and they lost it, usually because they didn't do anything, they didn't do things quite right. Well, what happened? Congress came within just a few votes of making franchising illegal. Can you imagine that today? Over 50% of all the goods sold in USA today is through a franchise. And it was almost made illegal, thanks to our Congress, because people didn't understand it. And yet today, I'll have to admit, a lot of times when I travel, I'll pick certain places that I know what kind of quality I'm going to get. And sometimes just for fun, when we're on a motorcycle trips, I'll try some out-of-the-way places. And it's about a 50-50 proposition. I've had some pretty bad meals in some of those smaller operations that weren't franchises. But in a franchise, you know what you're going to get. Whether it's the motorcycle or if it's a hotel or a motel or even the food or whatever. Now, how does franchising work? It works by you paying an amount of money. Say you want to open a 7-Eleven. I have seen more 7-Elevens around the world than any other franchise. That's why I picked it. So you want to open a 7-Eleven franchise. What do? You give them some money, whatever that fee may be. Now, some franchises for some of your fast food restaurants or even some hotels, you know, they'll cost you millions of dollars. But what you do now is you give them the money, and what do you get? You get one location. One location is what you get. But what if you want more than one location? What if you want to open up 5 locations? How do you go about that? Well, you start finding a way to get more money. That's what you do, because that money you put in just opens one, and then some more money opens another. And location means everything. So you're going to have some limitations of how many franchises can you open. And your location on that franchise can mean everything. Where we live, what I've seen in the last 28 years, I've seen 3, just on a street within about 2 miles of my house, I've seen 3 different 7-Elevens go down. They're not in business anymore. Somehow that location just didn't work out for them. Or somebody across the street built something bigger and better that offers the same thing, you know, and charges less gas prices. Because 7-Elevens, you know, a lot of them around the world don't offer gas. They just offer the ability to go ahead and pick up some things really fast. So where's the limitations there? The limitation is in how much money can you spend. Now let's look at the noni. John Wadsworth and Stephen Story. When John learned about the noni in 1994 and went down to Tahiti to study it and learn about it, well, they had a dilemma. They didn't have enough money to start a company to start getting it out there. In fact, they went to 5 different companies. Many of you would recognize the names that are network marketing companies today, and they turned them down, which actually was a good thing because we wouldn't be in existence if they would have said yes, until they found Kerry Acey, who had the money to get it started, and then Kim Acey, his brother, and then, of course, my friend and neighbor and longtime business associate, Kelly Olson. So what they decided to do, because Kerry had such a passion about this whole networking idea, he said, okay, here's what we're going to do. In 1996, we're going to open this whole thing up through people franchising. You may call it networking. I call it people franchising. So instead of selling this to people for a lot of money and they go out, and some people say to me, well, if this is so good, why isn't it in a store? I said, it is not in a store because our type of product takes testimonials. It takes word of mouth of one person telling another person. Our type of a product is something to be experienced. And the most important of all, it gives you and me, the common folks, the people that don't have all the money when we start, a chance to become financially free, that we can use our abilities and our talents and our reputation and our influence and our networks of friends to start sharing this through people franchising and become financially independent. Now, maybe your goal is just $200 a month. Well, that's fine, or $400, or $1,000, or $5,000, or $10,000, or maybe even more. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do that with people franchising. And here's the exciting part. It doesn't cost more money to open up more locations. I have locations right now, people franchising in 76 countries. Over 100,000 franchises do I have in my organization right now. Over 100,000 people that are out selling the bioactives, the Mirinda bioactives. We're all bioactivists now, and they're out selling this, and they're making a difference in the world, and they're part of my organization. How much more did I pay to do that? Zero, folks, zero. They paid their sign-up fee, they got their product, and they started sharing it. And many of them have become millionaires many times over. So look at this now. You have the light bulb plus Edison made him a wealthy person. You have the oil plus Getty made him a wealthy person. But here's what's exciting. You take the noni plus you take Mirinda Bioactives plus you, and it's a chance to give you financial freedom. Not the people on top that make all the money, but it's a chance for you to have financial freedom. So let's do a little bit of a recap here. Let's go back to our original chart. You are at the beginning of your own organization. It all starts with you. You are the CEO. And true residual income also depends upon the power of the product. See, that's a question people got to ask themselves when they look at a networking. And we're going to talk about this in a future network. Is it unique? Will people buy my product if there's no business attached to it? A lot of networking companies, the answer is no. But, you got to have something that people want even if they're not part of the business. Do consumers want it? Can you have customers? That's an important question to ask yourself. Another important question to ask yourself, do you have to be at the beginning to make any money? People say all the time, oh, you're lucky, you were at the beginning. Some of you on this call, I know, I saw your names on the list there. You know what it was like at the beginning. We were only 5 months old, and we had to shut down for 2 weeks, the first weeks of December. We were only 5 months old to try to catch up with everything because we couldn't get enough phone lines in. People were on hold from 1 to 2 hours to order the product. And that was in December. It was supposed to be a slow month. And that month, I still went triple diamond pearl along with Ken Rowland because people wanted the product. You see, that's when I knew we had something so powerful. I was excited before that. But then it was just like, whoa, man, this is exciting that I went triple diamond pearl my 6th month in the business. And it was at Christmas time when we were shut down for 2 weeks in December. And it happened because of the power of our product. And so that's important to find out. You don't have to be at the beginning. In fact, right now, let me just tell you something. One of my top earners in my organization, and sometimes months he makes more money than I do, he is on my 34th level. He's in Japan. 34th level. I make no money off of what he does, but he's the roots of my tree, you see. He's the one that gives me stability because his upline has to make money. My 8th level, my 10th, my 12th, my 15th, my 20th, my 25th level, they all have to make money or the whole tree starts deteriorating. So that's good that he's down there because it helps other people earn an income. And another thing is find out if the company leadership is really something good. You know, what is the payout plan? I mentioned earlier, are the products good and are they unique? And if the answer is yes, you don't have to be at the beginning to make money. The only time you got to be at the beginning to make money is if the product isn't powerful and they're selling the marketing plan. So just remember that. You know, this is true residual income in Miranda Bioactives, okay? It's true residual income. And so here's what I want to, getting close to closing here, I want to share with you. I call it the power of 3. You notice here at the beginning, those first few levels are all 3. You have you, 3, 9, 27, 81, 243. If you only just did 3, I mean, you want to do more than that, but if you just did 3, the power of 3, I call it. Well, let's just look at something kind of interesting. In math, 3 is odd. It's an odd number. And then if you look in love, 3 in love is a triangle. Somebody's going to win, and then unfortunately somebody else is going to lose. So one wins, one loses. But the power of 3 in people franchising will set you free. So remember that. The power of 3 will set you free. And it will. Networking can do it. Our company can do it. But networking as a whole is an incredible business. It's an incredible business model. And you got to ask yourself, what do you prefer? Do you prefer this on the left, where you're going to work every day? Or do you prefer this? Your office can be wherever you want it to be. So you have a choice. This, or where do you want your office to be? You see, you can decide where you want your office to be. You can decide, especially in our age today with communication. Where do you want your office to be? The choice is yours. You can decide where you want it to be. So the future is here, folks. It's right here now with Miranda Bioactives and our new Max product. So tonight I talked mostly about networking as a whole. Next Tuesday I'll follow up this webinar. At the same time we had it tonight, I will have another one. You need to register for that. But I'm going to have another webinar a week from tonight, and I'll answer the question why Miranda Bioactives is the best people franchising company to be involved with. Tonight I mainly talked about why networking is so great. Next week I'm going to tell you why I think Miranda is the one to be with. Now you can go to catchtheupdraft.com and get the details for registering. I'll have it on there tomorrow. And I'll also be doing another webinar in 2 weeks. Next week will be on people franchise, but in 2 weeks I'm going to do an animated version of the conference call I did a few weeks ago about the path of financial success that I had a lot of comments on. The 4 stages of your Miranda business. I've actually animated that and have it as a webinar now. And I'll also be doing that webinar, the 4 stages of your Miranda business. I'll be doing it at the Pearl Camp in a couple of weeks. And also this webinar, as I mentioned earlier, will be posted on Catch the Updraft in just a few days. So thank you for tuning in. Those that you may talk to your organizations that didn't get a chance to see some of this, it will be on catchtheupdraft.com. Stay tuned on catchtheupdraft.com weekly. And if you don't get the emails from me, you'll be able to still get the information there to register for the future webinars that I will have. The business is great, folks. Our company is great. The company is solid. It's financially solid. We have great leadership from the 5 founders on down to our vice presidents and the other people that work there. And we have a product that is second to none. And there is no better industry in the world than the industry of network marketing. Well, good night, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye.